Drive, Doctor, CEO of Medicas Hospital. Doc!
Lexus Bill.
Doc, we're getting closer to Christmas. Oh.
Hey, it's true.
You know this?
Something big for happen.
Yeah, something for happen. Something for happen. You give people free injections.
We should have a drive party.
You know, in the hospital.
Oh, that'd be.
Where else? But Doc, do you go to parties?
Oh, I do.
You're busy
I
schedule.
do.
Your parties in the theater.
Oh,
Like bring music, they have people's kidneys and you're playing with them, juggling them. Yeah. It's party time in here, guys.
Oh, sometimes we can give people some medicines and then they will be talking, and revealing secrets. So it can be fun.
You
it's a good idea. You see you.
Oh dear. Okay, good to have you, Doc.
Yeah, it's good to be here. It's been a lovely week.
Last week we started our conversation on arthritis, where our reading revealed that it's an inflammation of the joints.
Right.
Today, let's recap briefly. Then we can proceed to some of the other categories that we need to talk about, and probably we'll look at the causes, symptoms, and effects as well.
Right.
And more importantly for me today, how do we take care of our joints? Now, people got the education, people got to understand what arthritis is and what the causes, some of them are. Today, let's throw more light on how we can take care of our joints.
Right. So, good afternoon to all our listeners. And like this, two of our most ardent listeners, a 9-year-old girl and a 6-year-old boy in Ekwapem, Fiona and Papa Osei. I know they are listening. They're listening with their dad, Francis Osei, of Nestle Ghana. So,
hello to you guys.
Yes. I'm sure probably one day they'll be sitting in this chair, one of them.
Yeah.
New generation drive, Doc.
I know, right?
Right. So last week we started a conversation on arthritis.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that arthritis is an umbrella term that is used to describe any joint pathology. So it's a big term and it involves a lot of different things. We also said there are 3 categories of arthritis. You have the first category being osteoarthritis, which is what most people refer to when they mention arthritis. And then, and this particular arthritis is as a result of the degenerative changes that occur with age, and also the effects of repeated mechanical stresses and strains on the joint. So if you abuse the joint when you are younger, then you tend to speed up this particular process. The second category of arthritis was the inflammatory arthritis. And I remember last week we went through the Latin names for the cardinal signs of inflammation.
Yeah.
So when we talk about inflammation, then we are talking about calor, dolor, rubor, tumor. Hey, Charlie, you did for.
That's Dr. Lexus, man. That's Dr. Lexus.
Right. So there's heat, there's pain, there's redness, and then there's swelling, at the joint. And then altogether, there's a loss of function.
Yeah.
And then there's got the infective arthritis as the last category, where there's a causative microorganism causing the problem in the joint. We spent a bit more time to talk about the osteoarthritis, and I talked about some of the predisposing factors such as the wear and tear, that occur as a result of the abuse, quote unquote, of the joint. Today we'll go into detail. We talked about the type of footwear, also predisposed. We talked about obesity, being a risk factor, for developing arthritis, as well. The main symptoms of arthritis: pain and stiffness at the joint. Mainly for the osteoarthritis, pain and stiffness at the joint. So that's a recap of what we discussed last week, and we got some very interesting questions.
Yes.
And all of that.
I know, folks, you have more questions. You can send them in on WhatsApp 0244-340-437.
Somebody asked whether, I saw one of the messages later on whether or not the size of your hips can predispose you to developing arthritis. So we will answer that question later.
Okay.
Right. So how do you protect your joints so that they last you a lifetime? And that's the focus this week. Most of the time people think that, arthritis, I'm young, I don't need to listen to this conversation. This is about old folks. They are the ones who've damaged their joints and then they have a problem. But arthritis can happen to young people as well, actually all ages, because sometimes you can have predisposing factors, some congenital deformities that you are born with. Then there are things that we also do when we are young, and we don't feel the effects immediately, and then it happens later on. So in the next few minutes, we want to discuss some of the things that we can do that would sort of like reduce the rate of acceleration of the destructive changes that happen at the joint with osteoarthritis.
Okay.
Number one, I know the women are not going to like me. Adam already has a certain look on her face. You should avoid high heels.
Oh!
Mm-hmm. All right, so...
Dog. Charlie, when they... You should see her then when she wears high heels.
Uh-huh.
What?
So, soaring heels may look good. And not may look good. They actually look sexy.
Oh, damn.
Hey, like this. You should keep your head above sea level. Yes, so actually it's a thing of beauty. High heels, they accentuate a woman's features, and most people like to wear heels because it makes them look good and makes them feel good.
Make them look tall too.
It makes them look taller. But most people who wear high heels will tell you that their feet hurt a lot when they take them off. Most of them will tell you that their feet hurt when they take them off. So soaring heels may look good, but they're not good for your feet. Especially the pointed high heels. They squeeze your toes and then they thrust your foot into an uncomfortable angle. And that is not good, because we are talking about, putting your, like there are about 80 different joints in your foot.
80 different joints?
Yes.
In your foot?
In your foot.
Wow.
So imagine, when you have this pointy high heels, and you fit your foot into it, then it sort of like squeezes all your toes towards the pointed edge. That puts the joints in your toes at a very unusual position, and that may increase the wear in the joints, and later on you may develop pain, swelling in that particular joint. Right. So there was a study done one of the state universities in America that revealed that wearing high heels can damage the knee joint, not just the foot and ankle joints. It actually puts a lot of pressure because, again, it tilts your balance. And in our part of the world, again, when women have fat distributed in certain parts of their body in a disproportionate manner, then
which parts of their body?
Well, that one I'll leave it to your imagination and the imagination of our listeners. Right, so that's the thing about the shoes. So we're going to talk about shoes and the type of shoes. So the first thing is that you avoid high heels. Another is also to avoid tight flats. Okay, considering that heels are unhealthy for your feet, you may be tempted to go in the opposite direction, but be careful. Flats aren't great for arthritis either. So, like this, you realize this thing they call the Chinese canvas or something? Chinese canvas. It's flat.
Okay.
You just slide your
round
feet
edges or something.
Yes, with very round edges. So they're very flat. So flats can be very rough on your feet, especially if the shoes are rigid and also have a pointed toe. So narrow toe shoes can cause a situation we call hammer toes, where one of your toes, the toes, they overlap. So you end up having one sitting on top of the other. So that's the whole thing about having a wide box or a wide front shoe. So that's all your feet, all your toes rather, the five, are spread evenly. So please, when you are picking your shoes, you have to be very careful.
So what? They should not wear high heels. They should not wear flat. Then Wellington boots.
No, you should get low, comfortable heels.
Okay. So
low, comfortable heels. The ideal shoe has a thick, low heel, like a wedge. So the height of the shoe should put your foot into a comfortable, natural angle. So when you walk barefoot, for example, you realize that there's a slight, curvature on the inside of your foot, and then your heels are a bit up, but not so up. So that's what we mean by this low-heeled, shoes. Also make sure that the shoes have rubber soles. So when you say the Wellington boots, you're not far from wrong because they have rubber soles.
Yeah.
Just say, oh, feel I know.
All ladies,
you know,
of multimedia from hence, you.
What Wellington boots?
Yes.
Come on.
That's corporate uniform. HR, please send me.
Rubber soles, right? So let's get rubber soles, which act as shock absorbers and prevent you also from slipping. Your shoes should also have, as I mentioned earlier, a wide toe box, you know, so that you don't your toes don't overlap, and you provide plenty of room for them to move around. So next time you go out there and you are buying shoes, feel the soles. They must be made of rubber. They will be gentle on your joints.
That's what the girls do. They want their shoe to make go. When they are walking in the corridors of JoyFm, then red high heels coming.
They want to turn heads.
Yeah. Go.
Okay. Well, today that they know. Well, you can get something to put under. Sometimes they get this small rubber thing to tuck it. Lexus, we also have this thing we call stability shoes.
Okay.
All right. These shoes have cushioned midsole. You know, so if you look at the part between the toes and then the heel, you know, we call that the midsole. They have cushioned midsole and then the heel to prevent the foot, you know, from rolling forward. They also act as shock absorbers. And stability shoes may not be the best option for people who already, you know, have arthritis, but it may be good for people with arthritis in the hip, foot, or ankle. Like, you can actually also go barefoot.
One love.
Yes, barefoot. You know, so I remember when we first went to Kolebu, when colleague went on near the hostel, we go across the street to buy food, and then the fetish priestesses and then the fetish priests, you know, you see them in their white apparel, and then they go barefoot. So actually, when I was researching this, and then I came across it, I was like, oh, okay. So going barefoot actually has its positives.
Yeah, it really
you
does.
know, so for people with osteoarthritis of the knee in particular, then walking barefoot may even be better than wearing some types of shoes. That's because the barefoot walking reduces the load on the knee joint. You know, so you can think about that. If you can't go barefoot, then you can use flip-flops. Chaliwati. The normal chaliwati.
Very light and comfortable.
Exactly. But these days there are some funky flip-flops, very thick soles, very high, you know, fashionable ones. You know, but I'm talking about the regular chaliwati. You know, you can get that and then use it. There was actually a study done in 2010.
But you see, Doc, these things that you're talking about, these are for probably home. I mean, you can't wear chaliwati to work.
But you see, Lex, that's the whole point. When you get to the workplace, we have to start looking. There's this concept of occupational health, which we don't pay particular attention to in the workplace. Meaning your work can cause you to become ill or can cause you to develop certain diseases. And arthritis and some of these conditions are work-related. So in places where they take these things seriously, they have occupational health and safety policies and programs. These things sometimes are allowed. You know, you go out there most of the time, you find somebody wearing a suit and wearing trainers. You know, most of the time we see them and then we turn our heads and we're like, but this Abrofokra, what's wrong with them? They are coming here for a meeting wearing his suit and then he's wearing trainers. Sort of like it doesn't match, it's not fashionable. But you're talking about health here. You know, you're going to wear these fashionable shoes, something that's trendy, that's going to leave you with arthritis. You know, before we came on air, I was showing Philip pictures of a total knee replacement procedure, you know, where you can get very bad osteoarthritis of the knee, and we have to put prosthetic device, artificial metals or an artificial knee. And it's bloody expensive. You need over 100,000 Ghana cedis, you know, to undergo that procedure. You know, so if it is the shoe and it's going to cause you to develop arthritis, which is a disability, then we need to think about some of these things. So you can wear what you want to wear to work, but maybe when you get into the workplace, we should relax the rules a bit and then allow people, as they move about in the workplace, to, you know, to be in their flip-flops and so on and so forth. Okay. Right. The second point about caring for your joints is weight bearing, carrying weights. You should never carry more than 25% of your body weight. Whether you're carrying the load on your head, whether you're carrying the load on your back, whether you're carrying it in your hands, you should not carry more than 25% of your body weight. That puts unusual stress on your joints. So in this country, what do? So the first thing is the amount of weight. Then the other thing is about balancing weight. So we tend to use our dependent hand or limbs a lot. So most of the time you are hanging your bag, if you are right-handed, on your right shoulder. All the time. If you're carrying something in your hand, it's in your right hand, and so on and so forth. But you must learn the habit of balancing weight. Meaning you carry it in one hand for a few minutes, and then you transfer the weight into the other hand, for the same number of minutes. Okay? In our part of the world too, women tend to carry babies on their backs. A 2-year-old can weigh 13, 14 kilos, and you carry that on your back. And there's this tendency for them to carry them very low back, so that the babies literally sit on their bums. And that is not such a good practice. Even if you're going to carry something at your back, we prefer it's higher up. That's what a lot of the physical therapists will tell you, and then the spine people will tell you, that if anything has to go at your back at all, then it has to be your upper back. But the way we carry babies in this country, they literally sit on the bum, so a lot of the weight is at your lower, back, and that leads to a lot of waist and hip arthritis. So weight bearing is very, very important. I remember in this country we had, somebody got bashed a lot when he said there was a textbook or something that had been written, and they said their head is used for carrying a load or something. They got a lot of bashing. Yes, no carrying loads on your head. It's not such a good practice. The other thing is obesity. People who are overweight and obese are at a greater risk of arthritis. Every pound of excess weight, like this, exerts about 4 pounds of extra pressure on the knees. So if you check your BMI and it's above 25, you are 26 plus, or you're obese, meaning 30 plus, then you should know that every pound of excess weight, you are putting 4 pounds of pressure, extra pressure on your knees. So a person who is 10 pounds overweight has 40 pounds of extra pressure on his or her knees. If you're 100 pounds overweight, and sometimes people are, then it's 400 pounds extra pressure. So it's a 1:4 ratio. So all of us to check our weights and make sure that you are not overweight or you're not obese.
Good reason for you to join Work with Alexis.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And not
cut
just
down the weight.
Cut down the weight.
Yeah.
So obesity is a really, really big contributor to that. Then exercise. Most people will think that, oh no, exercising is not such a good idea when you have osteoarthritis. But then we're talking about before, when you are younger. Exercise is crucial, even for people who have arthritis. When we talk about exercise, the exercise has to be supervised. We are exercising to increase the muscle tone of the muscles around the joint. So it increases the strength and then the flexibility. When joints are unstable, the wear and tear in that particular joint accelerates. So you want the joint to be very stable. And that stability is provided by the tone of the muscle. So we do what we call muscle strengthening exercises. Muscle strengthening exercises. So you don't just go out there and then say, oh, okay, Dr. Safo says we should exercise, so I'm going to run or I'm going to skip. You probably would exacerbate the pain in the joint. So we're going to do muscle strengthening exercises. So these exercises need to be supervised. So if you go to a gym, and I know ex-gym, very great in terms of your supervisors, medicals as well. We've got a great physiotherapist. So if you're going to a gym, just make sure they have people who know what they are doing and who understand what we mean by muscle strengthening exercises around the affected, joint. It would also increase your bone strength, and it also increases balance. When you have pain, you tend to be unbalanced. You tend to lean towards the side that you have the pain. If it is hip pain, if it is knee pain, you tend to lean towards that side, and that is problematic. So part of the exercise is we will teach you about balance, even how to stand properly so that your weight is evenly distributed on the right and then on the left so that we slow down the wear and tear. So like this, these are the things that we should all do right from when we are teenagers, to reduce the rate of deterioration in the joint.
Luckily, it's not too late, so you can start now.
Yeah.
Doctor has given us some of the guidelines. Now, okay, I have arthritis. Any therapy options?
Right. So, for osteoarthritis, so it depends on the type of arthritis. Then the solutions, are there. So, if it is, let me just mention the other two just to dismiss them. If it's an infective arthritis, meaning there's a microorganism gone into the joint, then we're going to identify that microorganism. So sometimes you can have tuberculosis being the reason. Sometimes even gonorrhea can cause an arthritis.
Wow.
We talk about gonorrhea, our mind goes somewhere else, but you can have something we call gonococcal arthritis. So depending on the organism, your doctor would prescribe antibiotics, the appropriate antibiotics, and that would be taken care of. If it's an inflammatory arthritis, for example, an example is gout. So, for example, gout is an inflammatory arthritis. So you get all that heat, swelling, pain, and all of that. Then we'll have specific medicines for that as well. But then for the osteoarthritis, which is what we've been talking about largely, then there are a few, options, treatment options. The physiotherapist can also be very helpful in this regard.
And I know you have one at Medicas.
Exactly. Young lady, the guys love her, and then the women also love her.
I need to meet her.
Yeah.
You don't sound excited about that.
No.
Okay.
So, physiotherapy is very important, and they use a range of techniques, to improve the pain in the joint.
Okay.
But most importantly, they are going to help you with the appropriate type of exercises and also the weight loss. The weight loss. The exercises are going to strengthen your joint, because if you strengthen the joint, then the wear and tear also reduces.
Okay.
And then they will help you with the weight loss as well. They work in conjunction with the dietitian as well. So we've got this starvation diet we talk about sometimes. If you shed the weight, especially if the arthritis is happening in the weight-bearing joints, the hip, the knee joints, then the pain can disappear even without medicines.
Wow.
So physiotherapy is important. They also have something called infrared therapy, which they use. That also gives some very good relief, as well.
Let me activate the phone lines now so we can pick a couple of calls. 0302216541. If you're on WhatsApp, you can send us a WhatsApp message on 0244340437.
Right. We've also got medicines that we will prescribe. Most of the time, we call them anti-inflammatory medicines that will reduce the pain and swelling in the joint. But these sometimes, if you use them for prolonged period, then they have adverse effects, on your stomach. Some people will develop an ulcer and all of that. So these medicines are good, but long term they can have issues. We also have injections at the joint, where we can put some steroids, to quieten the inflammation occurring in the joint, and it can provide relief for between 6 to 12 months per injection.
Okay, so Naneki and Cancer in Hacho says, hey, this cannot be happening. Wellington boots for vertically challenged individuals in the office can affect business drastically. said this is a sad day for my 6-inch gang and myself.
Oh,
sorry, Naneki.
Just think about your joints.
Dede?
Yes, Lexis.
Welcome, how are you?
Thank you, I'm
right,
fine.
let's hear you.
Yeah, Doc, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, Doc, I started having some swells in my knee, and sharp pain sometimes is very hot, as if there's hot water around it. So when I went to the hospital, I was asked to do an x-ray. They said it's an arthritis. Actually, I don't know which type. Yes. Then so they gave me some antibiotics and some medicine, which I took. And it went for a little, and it's coming back. I just want to know whether it's curable.
Right. So, it's always important to know the type of arthritis that we are dealing with. The moment she mentioned antibiotics, then my mind went into the infective arthritis.
Okay.
So if we think that there's an infection in the joints because of all the swelling, and sometimes there's fluid, and the doctor sometimes might stick a needle in and then find out that the fluid looks like the fluid you find in boil, then perhaps sometimes you put in an antibiotic or do something else. But if it's an osteoarthritis, then sometimes a secondary type, then we need to look at some of the predisposing features. If you're going to wear the same footwear, then the problem is going to come back. If the cartilage that I mentioned is worn out, and therefore bone is meeting bone, then the problem is not going to go away. If your weight is not within the normal as we expect for the BMI, then it's not going to go away. So we need to share. I need to know a lot more, about her BMI.
Yeah.
We need to know about her lifestyle. The kind of footwear she's been using. So all these things will make a contribution to the alleviation of the pain. But the diagnosis is very important.
Yeah, they need to book an appointment with you so that they can find out more. Stephen. Hello, Stephen.
Yes, Lexus.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Oh.
All right, let's hear you.
Yes, the spinal cord, the bone at the lower back, that are arranged in order. Are there cartilages in between?
Yes. So we've got what we call a disc, intervertebral disc. In between the bones. Yes, there's a disc in between each bone.
So when you lose the cartilages in between the disc.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Hello.
Go ahead. We're listening.
Is that what you call spondylosis?
Okay, all right. So spondylosis is a different entity,
Okay.
From yes,
so
yes.
Well, that one, can there be any operation to remedy the situation?
Right. Yeah. So spondylosis can also be handled. We need to know the degree of the spondylosis, and then there are appropriate therapy options. It may not necessarily be surgical. Sometimes people will have to wear, a band in their midsection and all of that. If you're obese, then you have to also, we'll talk about the weight, lose weight, and all of that. So there are some options that would apply. There's physiotherapy to manage the pain and so on and so forth. So there are options, and it's not straight away surgical.
Okay, so I just got a message here that says, Lexus, I'm suffering from arthritis and I need serious attention.
Ooh.
Doc, please give your number right now. Please, doctor's going to put his number out there. Call him and book an appointment at Medicas Hospital in Hacho, in Medina
Firestone, yes.
Or Akropong.
In Mampong, yes. So actually we have our bone clinic, which we run, on a regular basis. So most of the time we deal with arthritis. So it's 0501 477 340. 0501 477 340.
Get onto Facebook, look up Medicas GH as well, and on Instagram, get the contacts, get in touch with Dr. Yaosafo and find out more about arthritis, and the team will handle you perfectly. Thank you very much, Doctor.
You're welcome.
The latest update in news now, Kola, what's happening?
Well, President Akufo-Addo says government will continue to give financial support for the peace process